Okay, there we go. Really nice. How loud is that cicada? Hello, Megaleech. The door is actually open behind me to let some fresh air in. I may have to close it because that cicada sounds super loud, to me at least. My microphone may not be picking it up as much, so it may be okay. But yeah, if it's too loud, I'll shut the door. Can barely hear it. Good. Okay. My ears are not as noise cancelling as my microphone. This is our first milk clarified cocktail I've made in a while. That's just a melange. I was actually emptying a couple of bottles that were almost empty. Just a couple of different spirits and a couple of different liqueurs and some pineapple juice and lemon juice added to milk, and then strained through a coffee filter. And basically, before I added it to the milk, it was very dark purple because some berry liqueur I'd put in there. And when I added it to milk, it looked like chocolate milk. But you just run it through coffee paper, and it looks like that. It's fucking incredible. I never stopped being fascinated by the process. Lemonheads, is that the wrestler dude? I believe I've seen that on the socials. Not someone I'd know myself. But I appear to have a lot of friends who are wrestling fans. One of my new shirts, by the way, a martini. So I'd probably have to have a martini to christen the shirt. Not a martini. Do you have blood clot to the brain or some other part of the body? That's the thing. I know he had a heart attack, didn't he? You do that sort of stuff that gets you injured repeatedly. There's a whole bunch of things just waiting to happen to you, which is unfortunate. And I think it's a thing that people don't acknowledge it enough. Like people who do sports, and I'm no sports fan. I occasionally hear much of sports persons being paid and think, what the fuck is that about? But in a really significant number of sports, they are giving up their quality of life later in life for our entertainment. Like so many sports people have serious health complications by their 50s. And not just like footballers, the wrestlers who do that performance. Like track athletes will fuck all their joints up and fuck their back up competing. And yes, I think us, the great unwashed, are a bit glib about that sometimes. Well, blasting the plunderers is a good idea anytime, in my humble opinion. Bum Fungus, good evening to you, sir. Nice to see you on this Tuesday night. Having a little sippy sip of my concoction. Doesn't taste of it anything distinctly. It's probably not super high alcohol either. It's a, decent whack of alcohol would get you drunk. Just sort of tastes a bit fruity, basically. Besides the amazing color change milk clarification does to a drink, it tends to radically change the flavors as well, like softens harsh flavors, and which I think is kind of why it was invented. Someone worked out back in the day, because milk punch, milk clarified drinks have been around for at least 300 or 400 years, and the quality of the, which were probably rums and brandies, maybe whiskies that they were doing back in the day, were probably fairly shit quality. So when someone stumbled upon a way to soften the harshness of the flavors, taste great, have a very interesting mouthfeel, because the whey from the milk gets added to the drink, so it adds to the viscosity, makes it silky. I often like how it looks pouring the milk punch over a block of ice, because the flow is just a bit more viscous than a normal spirit or water or whatever. I think it looks cool. But it tastes good 9 times out of 10 too. It's always interesting. It's not always better than the original drink, but it's always interesting. Like probably my favorite is to make a pina colada milk clarified and actually use the coconut milk or cream of coconut as the clarifying agent. And then depending what you make it with, you get something that looks like this, but tastes really coconutty and pineapple. And if you use really robust rums, strong rums, some of the rum flavor comes through as well, but it's really mellow. I think I can safely say that's my favorite milk clarified cocktail, a pina colada, when you use the coconut milk or cream of coconut as the clarifying agent. You just get creative with it. Greg, evening to you, sir. How are you? I'd call it a fine evening, even if it's raining. There's nothing wrong with rain. It's really funny. Mid-afternoon, I needed to go and pick up a parcel from the post office, and I was saying to Mrs. Angry, "You want to just go for a walk around to the post office, like neighborhood post office?" Yeah, think it's going to rain? Probably not. And then it just started, before we left the house, just started pissing down, even a bit of hail. Okay, lucky we didn't go. Yes, Greg, I'd much rather have the run of the house and the great outdoors than be stuck in the bedroom. Did the right thing, spent a week in isolation. Oh, nice, Greg. You actually did walk in the rain. That can be really nice. And I think because you're in the city, I think the city can look very nice in the rain. You get all the reflections of the lights and whatnot on the ground. I quite like that. Safa, lad, son, sir, how are you? Man, I've made myself, that's like about 400 mils, maybe even 450 mils. And I drank some, so it probably wasn't far shy of 500 mils of this cocktail. Pretty good for a ready-to-go drink. Be drinking that over the course of the day. Yeah, if the rain now is quite light, about, when was this, about 3 o'clock? Maybe slightly before 3 o'clock, it just fucking pissed down where I am. Safa, you good? Yeah, I'm basically better. I had a tiny bit of congestion this morning when I woke up, which was making me sneeze a lot. It's a tiny bit of nasal congestion. So sort of vibrating in my nasal passages when I was breathing, and it was tickling my nose. I was sneezing a lot today. But yeah, I'm basically better. Like, once more, cheers to the people who developed the vaccines. Safi, you had no rain. Bum fungus. Reckon it would have lost it if you had to. Oh, the old 2 weeks. Would have been a challenge. 2 weeks isolation would have been a challenge. I would have survived, but it would have been a challenge. Not like, oh my God, the poor fuckers who had to do 2 weeks. And again, on the scale of things, this is not an imposition, but the fuckers who had to do 2 weeks in a hotel room, Jesus, now that I would be all doolally after. Oh my God, I was thinking of people who came back from overseas with kids and had to do 2 weeks in a hotel room with kids. Holy shit. That's a special sort of purgatory. Again, like we could throw it out there. People all around the world doing it way harder. Whether people are being bombed to fucking Yemen, being invaded by Russia and Ukraine, and just people just living in very tough circumstances all around the world. That's all worse. But speaking as a privileged white person, that 2 weeks in hotel quarantine with kids sounds really sucky. Does not sound like a good term. See, Dr. Abigail, people whose opinion I've trust had basically said The Batman's a good movie. I don't know if I'll see it in the cinema. I may wait a couple months till it's free on a streaming service. Because Mrs. Angry hasn't had COVID. I'm still not in a rush to be in a closed space with recirculated air for 3 hours. Listen, don't know if I can show you this without it making a mess. So my milk clarified cocktail, which is, again, looks like a reasonably well hydrated urine sample, but the donor could maybe do a bit more hydration. But that color, not sure, that looks like it's poo on there. It's a bit more purple in real life. But that was the color of the drink before going through the filtering process, and it came out like that. Before I added it to the milk, it was a very dark purple because of some of the fruit liqueur that I put in there. And then when I added it to milk, it kind of looked like chocolate milk, but then clarified through the milk curd, comes out looking like that. I'll always show it off because it never stops amazing me. Big question, Safa. Did I have to go to the toilet multiple times in the 3 hours? Yes, it looked like poo. I think that looks like poo. So Megaleech, lyrics. Parasites have evolved to manipulate our behavior so genes proliferate. What do you think sneezes for? Clearing nostrils, taking over the launch choice. There is a certain school of thought that says we are just vehicles for microbes because significant amounts of our behavior are controlled by microorganisms in our body. So I have actually seen that school of thought that we are just big meat vehicles for microbes. Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. It's also it's kind of true. I've referenced this book before. It's called Peeps. It's a young adult novel. Peeps is slang for parasite positive. In this world, there's a particular parasite that makes people behave quite a lot like vampires. And between chapters of the book, the author does a little bit like a page or two on some particularly gnarly parasite that exists in the real world. And he's basically saying, this is my inspiration. Parasites are freaking wild. And they control our behavior way more than we're willing to admit. Scott Westerfeld wrote that. He's probably most famous for the young adult series known as Uglies, which should be a movie. It should be a Netflix show because there's fully 6 seasons in the books he's written. And I bet he's in negotiations because all those streaming services fucking love existing IP that they can do more than 3 seasons of. Your 3D printer, a finely tuned manufacturing machine. Yeah. So the song's Parasite Wars by Bubba Brinkman on YouTube. Science rap. It did sound accurate. So that's a thing. Right. Sorry, I was thinking of, in honor of this shirt, I feel like I have to have a martini, but in honor of wanting to clear some shelf space, man, I cleared a bit of shelf space today. It's like I do this. That's 3 bottles. Fuck yeah! I've had this forever, and I just got it as a novelty. It's not outlandish. It's called Cocalera. You see, there's a tiny bit. It's green. It professes to be a South American herbal liqueur. Really, it's flavored vodka. That's what it comes down to. And the green color's definitely artificial, unlike like green chartreuse where the color's natural. Hi Archie Monty, how you doing? Safa, interesting question you ask. Creating a second 3D printer with a 3D printer. A writer I quite like, Cory Doctorow, who with his speculative fiction spends a lot of time actually exploring real issues in the world today. And there's one with this guy who's printing important needed things for his struggling community with a 3D printer, but that's all illegal because the big corporates own the copyright to all the products, even though he got plans to print the parts people needed. And he ends up like going to jail for helping people because the big corporates control the law. And when he gets out, he wants to set up shop again. And his daughter's going like, fuck, dude, you know, you just got out and you got to print illicit stuff. And he's going, no, I've got the plans to print more printers. And then I'm going to give everyone the pieces they need for their own printers because fuck the police. So it's a sort of pretty green color. What percentage is this? Yes, it's only 29% liqueur. It's like, I mean, it's quite pleasant. I'm probably never buying it again. There's a bottle shop which is now closed, which would have really unusual stuff in it. And I every now and then go in there and say, okay, I want something totally new, something I haven't had. And one time, honestly, probably about 2 years ago, actually, fuck, it was probably more because it was probably pre-COVID. I don't know, 2.5 years ago. This just sat on my shelf for that long. Actually, now I drink it because it's the first time I've just drunk it straight in a while. I was thinking I don't need any more. Get green chartreuse. It's quite pleasant to drink. Chestburster, what kind of plant matter is vodka made from? Most vodka is actually made from grain. The potato thing is a actual quite small minority of commercially produced vodka. Apparently, potato-based vodka is a bit more viscous, is a bit sort of silkier. I want to try some potato-based vodka because the overwhelming majority of vodka on the market is grain-based. The overwhelming majority of spirits are grain-based. Brandies are fruit-based. Whiskies, gins, most vodkas are grain-based. Tequila is agave-based, which is a succulent or like a type of cactus. But yes, the whole thing about vodka being a potato thing can be potato, but it's usually not. So you picked up Mirror's Edge, Catalyst, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition, Mass Effect Andromeda. Under $18. Wow, that's a haul. Don't think Abigail's quite got into overwork. Safa, vodka is the first. Actually, it can be distilled multiple times. Vodka's a neutral spirit, so yeah, you get like vodka, gin, and whiskey start with a grain ferment, which beer is fermented grain, fermented vegetable matter. So vodka is meant to be neutral, meant to be no flavor. So vodka is vodka is distilled however many times, but with no flavor added. Gin's first life is vodka, and then is redistilled with botanicals to give it flavor. Most whiskey's first life, the new make spirit, is kind of sort of vodka, but not really. But let's say it is, and then it's distilled. So you want some water, and aged in a barrel. Gin and vodka aren't barrel aged. Unless they are, then they're a special thing. I have some barrel aged gin that's fucking awesome. Okay. You get some peeing ASMR now. There you go, some water. You're welcome. Chestburster, I did say first agave is succulent. Then I said cactus as an approximation if people didn't know what a succulent was. Ooh, Alexander, barrel aging mead would be interesting. Because the base of mead is fermented honey and other things, usually herbs and whatnot, botanicals. So I think you might get some extremely interesting flavors if you barrel aged mead. I might do it one day with one of my barrels. Thanks, Chris. I am also extremely glad I'm over COVID. Beer or fermented grain is, yes, one of the oldest drinks in existence. Well, that's from a particular point of view. From a pedantic point of view, no. Animals are known to consume fermented fruit and grain and get fucking drunk. Like to get a bunch of barrels for aging, can't afford them. Yep, I went a bit wild. I'm going to stop buying barrels now. I've got 3 barrels. So yeah. Oh, nice. Alexander making some mead. Fucking yeah. I'd be up for that. Yeah, so currently my newest barrel, I'm just seasoning with a port sweet vermouth mix. My first barrel, which has had the seasoning and a cocktail, now has some whiskey in it. And my second barrel had the seasoning, now has a cocktail in it. Anyone who's on the stream last night might remember I tasted both of them right at the end of the stream, and they're both tasting very interesting. Meads, fermented honey and water, yes. Yeah, I think to be regarded as real mead, you make it with honey. But you could obviously taste something. You could obviously make something that tastes like honey mead using sugar. It wouldn't be that difficult, I don't think. Yeah, you can get some commercially made meads in bottle shops. I've still got somewhere here. Mrs. Angry back in the 90s was into homemade wines, and I've got a couple of her homemade wines which have been mature, including a mead, which is quite nice. Yes, Chestburster. Molasses is the base of rum. So wherever sugar is produced, certainly for the last couple hundred years, people have usually ended up producing rum as well, because the molasses, while molasses can be sold as a commercial product, you're in the supermarket, you can see molasses on the shelves, but commercially producing sugar makes a shit ton of molasses, more than most people can sell as molasses, but you use it as the base for rum. So the story of rum is the story of sugar, And the story of sugar is the story of slavery, sadly. Anywhere that's a mass sugar producer has used slavery to do it at some point, whether that be the Caribbean or Queensland in Australia. Alexander, your girlfriend wants to experiment with different flavors of meat. Oh, sour cherry. Yes. Sour cherry mead. What flavors? I think maybe putting some different herbs in the mead might be interesting. While fruit is an obvious one to go for. Thinking herbs. Alexander, you're Australian, aren't you? I'd look into Australian native fruits and herbs. There could be some very interesting options in there. Justin, how is the gym? First gym since lockdown. Jesus. Not a gym guy, in case you can't tell. So, yeah. So you talk to, again, and I get this information through Kirsten, but Australian distillers, particularly gin makers, where they explore what botanicals they can put in the gin to flavour it. They've worked out just Australian native botanicals that are interesting flavours and non-toxic. There's thousands of unique Australian botanicals that can be used as part of distillation. In Europe, traditionally, they have a couple of hundred at their disposal. Australia, we've got a couple thousand. You're saying honey is made from evaporated condensed flower nectar. Well, yes, and it's made by bees. So evaporated condensed flower nectar. Well, it's bee vomit, isn't it? Okay, you live in the UK. Sorry, I didn't realize. Herb spiced meads are called methyl glyns. Well, that's cool. That is cool. Okay, the other one I would think of is the one that's traditionally used to flavor gins. Sloe, the blackthorn fruit that grows in the hedges. That if you're in the UK, that's a really traditional. That's one I'd think of. The blackthorn, aka sloe berries. Good on you, Justin. Getting in the gym. Good on you, man. Thank you, Dr. Abigail. I thought honey was bee vomit. Yummy, yummy bee vomit. Thank you, little bee friends, for processing that nectar into very yummy vomit. It's great. So this is my ready-made, ready-to-serve cocktail. Just put it on ice. I think. So these coloured and flavored curds, I've experimented before. Because that's the basis of cheese there, and particularly there's the Indian version of cheese. Oh God, the name of it's escaping me momentarily. But I actually experimented. I saved a bunch of that curd from multiple different cocktail clarifications and sort of pressed it to squeeze all the liquid out of it, and then pan fried it. Paneer, that's what the Indians call it, paneer. That's very close to paneer. So I pan fried that, and it was really yum. It's this because that super tastes like booze because it's absorbed quite a bit of booze as it filters it. So when I saved a bunch of that curd and squeezed the liquid out and then pan fried it, it was really tasty. It was like really boozy paneer, which is like proto cheese. Probably not the healthiest thing I've ever eaten in my life, but it was yummy. Also, definitely not the unhealthiest thing I've ever eaten in my life. Oh, all right. Gonna have some water. A little bit more PASMR. And then, to honor this new shirt, first time I'm wearing it, I'm going to have a martini. Got my freezer martini. I don't think I've tasted it since last time I topped it up. So it's going to be a whole new freezer martini. Hopefully very yummy. I've heard, like, we're talking about, prop aunties bee vomit, and it definitely, the flavor of it varies widely depending what flowers the bees have been consuming. There are people who very cheekily market stuff as honey, and it's actually just sugar and water and with some artificial flavors in it. Cheeky buggers. Very cheeky. I've still got these little bottles. I just had a sip of each of them. I'm thinking of making a video for my cocktail channel where I make a martini with each of these 4 different Brogan's Way gins. Talk about how, a martini is a totally different drink depending what gin you choose, what vermouth you choose, what ratio you choose. Like, without even getting into stupid shit like an espresso martini or a pornstar martini that are not martinis, like literally just, and fuck vodka as well for that matter. So a martini that's just gin and vermouth, and we think of all the different ratios that are recognized, different ratios for martinis, garnishes, and then you take in the number of gins and the number of vermouths that exist around the world. And there is essentially a limitless number. Like, okay, there's a limit, but I think the number's too big for human brains to process. The number is easily in the millions. You could make millions of different drinks that taste distinctly different, but are all traditional martinis. Chestburster, maybe V vomit. Yeah, but when you say condensed, evaporated, dehydrated nectar, that just sounds like you're dehydrating nectar. But yes. Oh, yes. And I remember, or I've read of, the molasses flood. It was a warehouse that had just an absurd amount of molasses, thousands of liters of molasses, and the storage thing broke and it flooded down. A slow motion flood. And it kind of sounds funny, a molasses flood, but physics took over, and this wall of sort of slow moving molasses destroyed buildings and killed a bunch of people. Some people were killed by collapsing buildings. Some people actually fucking drowned in this molasses or crushed by this molasses. So when you say it at first, sounds funny, a molasses flood. Not so funny, killed a bunch of people. Lee, I'm not huge on, I've got tonic. I've got a few different tonic waters. Yeah, the other thing, I could have done gin and tonic with these, but I prefer martinis. I've got a few different quite good quality tonic waters in the fridge. I don't know. Yeah, I know gin and tonic. I don't know if you want to call it classy drink. It's depending how much tonic you put in, it can be a quite low alcohol by volume drink. So some people like it because, big glass, ice, a lot of tonic, bit of gin. You get a nice flavor, and you don't get too pissed while drinking it, but you get a bit pissed, which is good. Music David have returned no less than 20 minutes trying to find out how to render a video vertical in Sony Vegas. I'm giving YouTube Shorts a go. Yeah, my editing software makes it kind of easy, but sometimes acts weird. Bees, yes, they literally swallow and vomit nectar hundreds of times, processed slowly into honey. Safa, if Chestburster is right, it was 1919 was the molasses flood. A non-Newtonian fluid like oobleck, but different in a lot of ways. Yes, well, oobleck's not as thick as molasses. Like if molasses, you're just pushing your finger in, molasses is really thick. Yes, Safa, that's why honey tastes so good, because bees vomit it. Safa, the molasses flood was in Massachusetts in the United States. Like I said, on the surface, it sounds funny. Molasses flood, molasses tsunami, but it killed a bunch of people. It wrecked a bunch of buildings. So less funny when you realize there was a death toll attached to it. But it was a fucking bizarrely huge amount of molasses to cause the destruction and mayhem it caused. We're not talking a truckload of molasses. We're talking an absurdly large amount of molasses that was being stored in this warehouse, and the storage container broke. Lee, you're back from being created. 3 high distinctions. Nice. Good work, that man. Keep knocking it out of the park. Love to see it. Ugh. I'm trying to think. I feel actually good that I got rid of some bottles that had been just kind of taking up space, and man, now I've got space for like 6 bottles. Maybe not that many, but at least 4, if not 5. Which, kind of inspires me to just buy some more bottles, really. Well, yeah, Chestburster peanut butter is virtually a solid. So, Abigail, the master's tank was poorly designed. Regulations were not up to scratch. Yep, disaster waiting to happen. Yeah, they just stored way too much molasses in way too dodgy a tank, and it's just fuck. I see, and that's why people got tarred and feathered. Ghost Chestbuster. I was going to call you Ghostbuster. Because tar's really sticky, and if you cover someone in tar and then feathers, it's real fucking hard for them to get it off. It's quite a nasty punishment. Also, most tar is flammable, so it's was used as a weapon in sieges sometimes. Ooh, you're planning a trip to Malaysia. I have not yet been so optimistic as to plan travel anywhere. I think the next place I want to travel is Adelaide. Just because I've got a couple of friends there, like Salumi from the chat, but also a couple other friends. Again, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb. Silly putty is definitely a solid. It's a pliable solid, but it's not a liquid. It's a solid. You get into all sorts of fights about, I suppose that's chemistry, the difference between solids and liquids. It's like you get people who try to argue that glass is kind of liquid because they talk about all these old buildings where over a sufficient number of centuries, the glass sort of flowed down a bit. And I believe that was actually a fallacy. Justin, yeah, the only trouble is Canberra sucks, so I don't really want to go there. No reflection on you, just a reflection on Canberra. Harsh words, but someone had to say, okay, I'm going to get a martini, guys. I am not going to put and olive in there. Okay, so Dr. Abigail, you are agreeing that, like pitch, silly putty is a non-Newtonian fluid. Okay. Oh my God, there was that weird experiment in some university of pitch going through a funnel, and it took like a century for a drop to fall from this pitch. It's an ongoing experiment. All right, so I'm going to get a martini glass because that's how I do. I'd normally do a lemon twist as a garnish. I don't have any lemons. Don't really want to do an orange twist. All right. Has my freezer martini frozen? I haven't looked at it yet. No, it hasn't. Okay. Now, this might sound weird, but I'm going on evidence. If I let my freezer martini sort of be on its side and touch things, it freezes. But if I leave it vertical, it doesn't freeze. All right. Freezer martini. It's probably a double. Good, there's all sorts of weird ice on my freezer martini. I'm going to leave it out so that melts. Ah, yes. Okay, so it's the Brisbane University pitch drop experiment. Longest running experiment ever. Nice. Roughly 10 years for each drop to break off. I remember it was on the internet a little while ago. A drop had dropped off and they were all very excited. You went to Canberra multiple times. Too many. They were big on roundabouts. Canberra's big on roundabouts. Read and heard tar can be natural, human-made, can be made out of coal. I believe you are correct. I believe there's a naturally occurring substance known as tar. I believe most tar used by humans in construction of roads, whatever, is manufactured. It's never actually been witnessed, but there's an online webcam. Next one will be documented. Yeah, I think Canberra may have been, I don't think may have been, I think it was the first Australian city to have lots of roundabouts. It was famous, and they're huge. They're not like the roundabouts you get in normal cities. They're fucking huge. Right, I don't think I've tried this iteration of the freezer martini. So, excitement. Oh man, that's the shit. Just all these different flavors cascading through. Because since I started it, I don't know, this has had, I don't know, maybe as many as 10 gins in it and 4 vermouths. So chestburster, commons. Oh yes, that's what we call it. The stuff used in roads, we always call bitumen. You've been learning Baroque pieces for the old trumpet. Discovered a composer named Alessandro Stradella who seemed obsessed by flipping the strong beat in the bar between 1 and 2. Those are all words, and I know the meaning of some of them. I love that because Baroque has general colloquial meaning to describe things, but you're literally talking about the Baroque period of music. So you're saying in 20th century we changed the time signature with a random 5/4 bar. Okay. Ookie dook. Bitumen's leftover large chain hydrocarbons from the fractional and distillation process of producing petrol and natural gases. Well, there you go. At least we use it. The byproduct of creating fuel, we found a use for it. Turn it into globby stuff and make roads with it. Definitely an acquired taste. My dry freezer martini. A taste I learned recently, Nettie doesn't have. Last time uh, Nettie and Abigail were over, I gave her a little taste of my freezer martini, and she's like, "Blah." And then I sweetened it up, and then she liked it. Lee, you remember first moving to Adelaide, you were called a Mexican from Victoria. Doesn't be really me. That also doesn't make sense in South Australia. Someone in South Australia saying that to you is a fucking moron. In New South Wales, it's dumb, but at least has a kind of sense to it because you're south of the border. Break the chains in bitumen, create petrol and natural gas. Cracking. Read and heard petroleum general, mineral oil like baby oil, plant cooking oils. All these things can be used to remove an unstick tar. They can remove sticky things, yes. We use it when we make road with it, drive our cars on it, or road it with constant use, make it go into fire. Yeah, it's just another way we poison the environment, basically. Our existence is poison. Story with the roundabout traffic lights. There's too much traffic in two directions, making roundabouts unsafe, so they put traffic lights on it because it's sure. Okay. I know there's a couple of really spectacular intersections in the UK where they're like Hydra roundabouts. There's a big roundabout in the middle, and there's like 4 roundabouts around the edges, and you got to work out how to navigate the whole way around. On paper, you can look at it and go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But I just see it being an incredibly stress-filled experience actually driving on it. The way that it is. Now, because I poured myself a quite generous... I'm trying to decide if I might not top it up now. I'll have another martini later in the week and then top it up. That's my plan. That's the plan, and that's what I'm going with. Yep. I read an opinion somewhere that liking bitter things is on a list of potential psychopathic traits. So you're liking tonic or gin and tonic or coffee, these bitter things. Yes, that's that's its nickname, the Magic Roundabout. Yes. Safa, well, there are some good pre-made cocktails, depending what you want. There's a lot out there. Yes, I think you could go to Dan Murphy's and get pre-made martinis. Whether they're any good, anyone's guess. I've never had a pre-made martini. But they're like just at Dan Murphy's, there's a shit ton of pre-made cocktails you can get. You need a good duck-related name for your Etsy store. Any ideas? Yes, Lee. Makes no sense. Person said West End draft will be around longer than VB. Yes. Not that I keep that much track of beers, but yes, West End is very, very, very niche. VB is everywhere. And yes, I agree, Lee. Martinis are nice. You can create a magic circle. Does that count? Yes, I'm going to say yes. Yeah, Safa, another one is you can order them online and get them delivered. Some very, very good quality pre-made cocktails. Ketones such as acetote. Melton's most common. Yeah, acetone's nail polish remover. Because, nail polish seems solid and whatnot, but acetone will dissolve it and remove it. It's a while since I've had a pre-made cocktail. The Starwood New Old Fashioned's pretty good. Archie Rose make a bunch of pretty spectacular pre-made cocktails, but you got to buy big things of it. I know. Okay, for shits and giggles, let's actually look up what Dan Murphy sells as pre-batched cocktails. So, espresso martini, margarita, the slow and low, orange honey rye old fashioned, Hochstadters. That's kind of nice. Starwood new old fashioned, espresso martinis, Archie Rose espresso. So there's a whole bunch of pre-made espresso martinis at Dan's. Negroni in a can. Yeah. Oh, Rakia Rhubarb Cosmopolitan. Damn, that sounds interesting. Gin Martini from Hendrix. A Scotch Manhattan from Glenfiddich. A Monkey Shoulder Old Fashioned. Pre-made Cosmopolitans. Vespa Martini. So that's going to be gin and vodka. That's going to be easy to drink for people who are a bit iffy about gin, actually. So, the Japanese slipper, there's quite a variety at Dan's. There's a lot of variations of old fashions, espresso martinis, and Negronis. They're the most common. A few variations on a margarita. Oh, look, there's an amaretto sour. A few variations on Cosmo. So yeah, there are definitely at various bottle shops. They have some sort of pre-made. Oh, Megaleech going for the duck puns for Nancy store. Duck side of the moon. All hands on duck. By the duck load. Fell off the back of a duck. I'll take a quack at it. Those are all excellent duck themed names. Oh God, Chestburster. Dr. Kellogg, who initially invented cornflakes, but the things he made are completely different to what you buy in the store now. He was off his fucking rocker. Like he was off with the fucking pixies, quite honestly. And yes, he was obsessed with masturbation and it being a bad thing. And I'm not exactly sure how eating bland cornflakes was going to stop you masturbating, but he was pretty convinced it would. He was absolutely off his rocker. But his brother saw some commercial promise in cornflakes and added sugar to them. Not a lot of sugar in cornflakes, but a bit. Whereas the Dr. Kellogg did not want any sugar, and he was very angry at his brother for commercializing the cornflakes. Oh, now some feather puns, Megaleech. Without further ado, look no feather. Let's just wing it. Nice. See, Megaleech is delivering duck puns for an Etsy store. Brilliant stuff. Me? Oh, man. I really fucking like this martini. Oh. Yes, so I poured myself pretty sure I poured myself a double. But that's okay. I deserve it. Oh, some flight puns, Megaleech. Flight of fancy, flight of imagination. I mean, in light of ducks, corkscrew dicks and corkscrew vaginas, I just feel like, another duck name would be, you know, genital arms race. Because that's what's happening between male and female ducks, a genital arms race. Female ducks trying to make their vaginas more complicated so they can control who impregnates them, and male ducks getting corkscrew dicks to try and find their way through female duck vaginas. Dr. Abel, What the Duck is just a good one too. John Kellogg is so anti-sex he refused to sleep in the same bedroom as his wife. May have been asexual. He may also have had some quite profound mental health issues. So if it's a duck hunting season, there's always people argue about it. Yes, chestburster. He was very big on totally bland foods to stop people feeling sexual desire. Fucking weirdo. Guy was a fucking weirdo. So I was playing a bit of Red Dead Redemption 2 again this afternoon, trying to see if I could get the vampire to come back. And I don't know if I have to wait multiple nights for him to come back, or if I blew my chance. I went there once and he fucking one-shotted me, and he just never comes back. I hope he comes back, because my thing I want to do with the vampire is catch him, because apparently you can do that and people don't fucking care, and take him to different locations. Like take him back to the camp with the rest of my crew and see how they react to a vampire walking around the camp. Take him to different towns. Like in Saint Denis, that's the big city in the game. They're all cosmopolitan and they're nothing phases them. I think if I take him to some of the small towns, might freak him out. A Nosferatu looking dude. Safa. Yeah, no, John Kellogg was the loony guy who was very anti-sex. His brother made the Kellogg Company. He commercially sold Kellogg's cornflakes, to which the original John Kellogg, very upset there. See, chestburster knows, Will Kellogg. John Kellogg, very upset at his brother. Oh my God. Yes. Productions and reproductions. Yeah, to be fair, chestburster, at the time Kellogg was a doctor. Fucking anyone could be a doctor. Medicine in the 19th and into the early 20th century, dodgy as fuck, quite honestly. There was a meme from a few years ago, like, man, I would have loved to be a doctor in the Wild West, because it's just like someone comes into you and something's wrong with them and you go, I don't know, I think you got ghosts in your blood. You should do cocaine about it. And they would just prescribe cocaine. Yeah, no, see, Robot Man, Greg, the Red Dead vampire, he's not really a vampire. He looks like Nosferatu, but you can take him out in sunlight and he doesn't burst into flame. He has been murdering people in Saint Denis, and because he thinks he's a vampire, but he's not really. Bum fungus, who? Oh, yes, leeches. Sorry, I thought, who are we sticking leeches on? Yeah, that was old-timey medicine. Bleed people. At least leeches was not as bad and not as life-threatening as literally cutting people and bleeding them, which was the fashion in medicine for a while. No, very, very, very not good stuff. But yes, the amount of prescriptions into the 20th century that were huge amounts of cocaine, morphine, and heroin. Laudanum, there was a liquid form of what's basically heroin. So poppy, that was called laudanum, which would be prescribed all over the fucking place. And it's just liquid heroin. I think I'll just drink some liquid heroin. Yep, I feel better. Or at least I don't care about being sick now, because I'm high as a fucking kite. So, yes. The practice of medicine, slightly less reputable in the past. Some of them were trying hard. Some of them were actually looking for evidence and went, well, that works and that doesn't. So let's not do that and let's do this. But I mean, for fuck's sake, a lot of people were just charlatans. Oh, Jesus Christ. So, okay, Safa, that's a good one. Housewives in the 20th century given drugs. It still happens. I remember, when was it? The 90s? No, the noughties, the early noughties. I was working in a call center. One of the women I was working with, she was just like, oh, if you want good drugs, just be a woman and go to a doctor and say, I feel anxious and can't function, and he will just prescribe you the most over the top fucking drugs. But yeah, certainly through the mid 20th century and even the latter part of the 20th century, speed was prescribed to housewives like it was fucking going out of style. Like there was a joke in the original movie version of Hairspray, the John Waters movie, where Divine is the mother. She has a line like she takes in washing and she does ironing for people for money, and when her daughter's giving her a bit of grief, she says, like, fucking go away and leave me alone. I've got 5 baskets of laundry to iron and my diet pills are wearing off. And when I first saw the movie, I didn't understand that line. But diet pills were and are amphetamines. If you're lucky enough to get a doctor to prescribe you, what's the one that's around? I'm not even sure if it's still legal to prescribe Duramine. I've had Duramine prescribed for me in the past. Motherfuck, it's just prescription speed. And the instructions I had was like, you take it first thing in the morning. And you take it first thing in the morning. Because if you forget and go, I'll take it at lunchtime, you're not sleeping for like 18 hours after you take it. So it's like you have to take it first thing in the morning so you can sleep that night. If you take it at lunchtime, you're not going to be able to get to sleep before like 3 or 4 a.m. And I speak from experience with this. But it is a very effective appetite suppressant, as is speed and cocaine, the street drugs. Maybe you got one for me, a cacophony of noise for my old ambient cacophony pun. Jess Burster, you said something lewd during a live stream while high on weed. Claudia Brown told you to take a cold shower. I think cold showers for coming in, I think that actually works. If you're horny, cold showers or even just like a bucket of cold water being thrown in your face makes you less horny, because it's just like it's such a shock. You forget whatever the fuck was happening just before the cold shower or just before the bucket of cold water was thrown in your face. So I think that does work. I think it does work. So Mrs. Angry is watching Star Trek Discovery in the next room with the sun, in the next room, and I can just hear the sound of it. I can't hear any of the dialogue, so it's no spoilers for me. I'm going to watch it at some point. You'd reckon I might have got ahead with watching TV when I was in my bedroom for a week, but I didn't watch that much TV or streaming services. At various times, I was listening to podcasts or audiobooks. I was just lying down. And I didn't want to focus on, like, I had a little desk. I could have set up a laptop so I could watch it while relaxing. And I did that a little bit, but that was kind of more hassle than it was worth. I just like listening to things, just lying down and listening to either podcasts or audiobooks or music. I did that quite a bit. Like I would find, although I was technically at work because I had my work laptop and I was logged on and I was doing some stuff, there would be periods where I'd go to lunch and go, man, I just fucking want to lie down. So I would for a couple of hours. Mega Leech will know what's this one? Sporoduck Reproductions. Noise. Heine, is there a good reason to jump in Star Trek Discovery? Recommend people start season 3 of Star Trek Next Generation. Look, Abigail judges me for liking the first couple seasons of Discovery, but I have to admit, I just kind of switch my brain off, just watch it and enjoy it. Don't get too much of it. The one thing from the first couple of seasons of Discovery, I don't think they justified the complete redesign of the Klingons. I think they could have, because what they did, which I think was good, they were specifying like there was multiple tribes or races of Klingons within the home planet Klingon. And I think that gave scope for making Klingons have variations. But I think they should have had Klingons who looked exactly like Klingons we'd seen before, and I don't think they did. So Dr. Abigail's appraisal is season 1 of Disco's okay, not very Star Trek. Season 2 is a mess. Season 3 gets good. See, I'm a bit lighter than that. Asking Megalich for some Mallard puns. Mallardy? Yeah, maybe. Chestburster, you were approached by a military recruiter. You told him he's socialist and not interested. Not sure how that worked. I was okay. You reminded me of a 60s thing. Okay, so like Vietnam, conscription, people showing up. There's a guy who's a folk singer who was very popular at the time. His name's Arlo Guthrie. And he had, actually, it might have been Arlo Guthrie Jr., who had the album Alice's Restaurant, which was a big hit in a certain perspective. But there's a particular bit where he's like playing a bit of guitar music. It was a spoken word thing. He's talking about he's going to be conscripted. So he shows up to the recruitment center and he's basically trying to sound too crazy to get conscripted to go to Vietnam. So when the guy in the recruitment office is going, what do you want? And he stands there going, I want to kill. I want to kill. I want to kill. So again, it's how do you sound too crazy to a military contractor to be too crazy to be recruited, because they just want to recruit crazy people. It's funny. And there was I remember another weird bit from that. Alice's Restaurant's like a concept. At one point, like he's trying to take rubbish to the dump and he can't be bothered, and he just throws it off the side of a mountain. Basically, it's like a road. And he throws it off. He sees people have been throwing rubbish off the side of this thing, so he throws it off. And then a government person comes to him because they found this big rubbish dump, and they want to question him, and they say, so I want to ask you, because we found this big pile of rubbish illegally dumped, and there was an envelope in that pile that had your name on it. He said, well, sir, you got me. I went out there into the wilderness with an envelope with my name on it and stuck it in the bottom of that pile. In context, it's funnier. Just throwing it out there. Oh, man, this has still got bits of ice on it. Oh, no, I got it off. Good. All right. This can kind of go back in the freezer now. Kirsten Hellion, hello. Oh, thank you, Megaleech. The puns just keep coming. What shall I make for you, my lad? My lord. Malady of wares. Micro, hello, by the way. You're here for the next 10 minutes. It's a nice look. This is a good shirt. This is a martini shirt. It's got a martini and a bunch of inexplicable symbols on this side. I don't know what these symbols have to do with the martini, but I've got it. Kirsten, you are officially on holiday. Where are you physically in the world? Are you still in Sydney, or have you made it to like Adelaide? So Heidi saying 7 and 9 start in season 4 of Voyager. A couple of years ago, Mrs. Angry did a project with her son. They watched the entire excuse me, oeuvre of Star Trek in chronological order of the Star Trek universe, which meant watching Enterprise first, then the original series, then starting the next generation. And then at a certain point, you have to start mashing up Next Generation. No, actually, I think Next Generation just runs, but you have to mash up Voyager and Deep Space Nine at some point. But there's websites that tell you how to do that. So they did that. Micro. Oh, man. So I think the way I ended up finding these shirts years, like literally years ago, like pre-COVID, at least 3 years ago, we got onto the topic of utility kilts on a live stream. I looked it up and I ordered my first kilt, a utility kilt. And then because I bought a kilt, I was advertised some very gothy and queer clothes. And I bought this very gothy vest from a website called Dracula Clothing. Then I bought that, and Facebook decided I was gay, and I got a bunch of super gay clothes advertised to me. But eventually I got these shirts, these retro pseudo Hawaiian shirts, and I've never looked back. Oh, you're in the Barossa, so you are in South Australia. And you're going to see as many distilleries as possible. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Megaleech is admitting Mallard is a tough thing to come up with names for. Mash up season 6, 7 of TNG with season 1, 2 of DS9. Season DS9 Voyager. Yeah, there's a website that tells you in the chronology of the Star Trek universe which order to watch the episodes in. And they did that. They watched them all. The Maladaptive Mallard. That's a pretty good name. And of course, Disco throws it all into disarray because some of the Disco stuff is pre the original series, basically. And some of it, I don't know, it's very, very confusing. And yes, that is a fair comment, Chessburster. Facebook is an invasive company when it comes to privacy. And that's where I got these. So I continue to get these advertised to me. I will not be buying any more for a while, although I did get one advertised to me recently that had long sleeve shirts, and they only really had one cocktail shirt. If I end up getting long sleeved cocktail shirts advertised to me, I might get some of them. What the fuck is that? Sorry, I just did the wrong thing. Maladaptive. Maladaptive. That is a pretty good word, maladaptive. I like it. Yeah, so my current status is don't buy any more shirts because I got 8 new shirts on Sunday. They could probably convince me to if they got long sleeve shirts and these things though. But oh, Dr. Abigail, you're big on. You just want to forget 1 and 2 of Disco. Yeah, and again, you're a mad Trekkie compared to me. I enjoyed seasons 1 and 2 of Disco, but say la vie. Everyone can take their own take on these things. Again, what taste, whether it be about clothing, food, drink, TV shows, music, it's subjective. And your own taste is completely valid for you. So, okay. Oof, that's the end of my martini. Micro. You like the one with female capital? That was Voyager with Janeway. I love that, Mega Beach. Whatever floats your mallard. Also, Mrs. Angry and I watched the animated series Prodigy, which is aimed at kids to teens. It's a Star Trek animated series. And I feel like it was much more like Star Wars than Star Trek. And I don't know if that's just because Star Wars had all those animated series, but there were some really good stories in Prodigy. And they have a hologram of Janeway, which is fun. When you're doing animation, you can have the original actors do the voices for a younger version of themselves, which is what they have in Prodigy. The original actor playing Janeway, but it's however many decades later. But it's a hologram. It's a younger version of herself. So to be fair, season 1 of Disco was decent sci-fi. Just similar sci-fi with a thin veneer of Star Trek. Someone's slapped Star Trek Starfleet Delta. Yeah, look, okay. We have different worldviews, and it's equally valid. It's valid. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoy hearing other people's perspective on things, and so long as someone's not being a dick, I'm always willing to. Sorry, that's about time. Got the yawns. What's the time? It's only 9:15, and I got the yawns. I'll try and not yawn too much. And along with Star Trek, I would put all the recent Star Wars from the sequel trilogy through to the TV stuff. I just kind of, to a large extent, switched my brain off and tried to enjoy it. I've really enjoyed the TV shows, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. None of them are perfect. Some less so. Like the third of the sequel trilogies, The Rise of Skywalker, was just fucking stupid. And then when you heard that when they were producing them, they didn't have a vision for the trilogy, that it was going to go from here to here to here. They just were starting from square one with each movie. That was a very bad mistake. Oh, see, Dr. Abigail, I'm perfectly willing to sit in my puddle of wrongness and be very wrong. I'm happy to sit in my puddle of wrongness. I tell you what, though, on the Star Wars world, I watched the teaser trailer for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but they've fucking got me. I swear to God. I looked at that and was like, no, you've got me. That looks intense, and I'm fucking here for it. I am all in for the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series. I don't think that comes on till May. I'm just gonna look that up. Kenobi. God, what the fuck? Kenobi series release date. Yeah, it's not coming on until the end of May. More than 2 months away. But the teaser trailer, I am fucking all in. Like more so than Book of Boba Fett. More so than The Mandalorian. I just the teaser for Kenobi, I was just like, man, that looks fucking intense. I want to see that. They've got me completely hooked. So I'm really hoping the series doesn't actually let me down, because the teaser got me 100% all in. So it's kind of at the same time, like on Disney Plus, watching Marvel series. I don't know that there's a new Marvel series coming anytime soon. I've watched a couple episodes of Hit Monkey, which is animated, which is okay. Kirsten leaving us for the completely justifiable reason: husband is luring you with cheese. enjoy that. And I look forward to hearing more about your South Australian Odyssey. Sometime in the next week or so, I'm hoping to get my Archie Rose white cane. I'm looking forward to that because I'm thinking it's going to be super yummy. Plus, I have freed up some shelf space by emptying other bottles I have. I think I have more room for liqueurs at the moment. I might get something else from Marionette, actually. Another berry. I think I used up all my berry liqueurs. I got Groiselle, which is kind of a berry liqueur. I don't know. But I have a little bit of shelf space available at the moment. And I have a ridiculous amount of whiskies at the moment. In fact, for fun, I will count them. I'm just going to go over here and count my whiskies. Let's see. Oh, okay. Jesus, that martini is fucking kicking in. Let's go over here and count. Okay, whiskies. 1, 2, 6. That's wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, 13 whiskies. I've got 13 whiskies there at the moment. Need to work my way through them. I think I've got that many gins as well. I've got quite a few rums. So I don't think I need any more spirits. Maybe a couple more liqueurs. Ah, yes, hanging off the Applewood. Say hello to everyone at Applewood. Lovely people. And I also want to visit them. When you said the new Obi-Wan trailer dropped, went and watched it. Yes. Oh my God. That there has actually been very few trailers for stuff that has got me as all in as the Obi-Wan trailer got me all in. It was fucking amazing. And Megalici's still coming up with the duck names. Radical Productions. Oh my God, double duck. Radical and Reproductions. So, yeah. So I have a lot of whiskies, a lot of rums, a lot of gins. Might have a bit of room for some liqueurs. I got to think about it. I think maybe something from Marionette, although I've got their Groiselle. Actually, I've got 4 Marionette liqueurs still, even though I finished the other ones. I've got orange curacao, blue curacao, apricot, and Groiselle. Yeah, Safa, the Inquisitors in a live action. Kind of looks cool. And Greg, the Duckinator, Duckmente. Love it. Love it. I have to decide, I don't know. Tomorrow night, I'm either staying in with Mrs. Angry and just watching something on TV, or trying to take advantage of Melbourne money, getting a government rebate for going out to a couple of venues in the CBD, having drinks and munchies, and being able to claim, I think, like 25% of it back, up to $145. So it's like, fuck yeah. We'll have to see, A, how we feel tomorrow, and B, if it's raining. Because it's kind of, sort of, maybe raining all this week. Where's my phone? Fuck, where is my phone? I thought it's not here. It must be in the next room. Wow. I hope Aidsy hasn't been messaging me saying he wanted to join. I think Mrs. Angry would tell me if my phone was dinging, actually. I do think it's in the next room, though. So, all right. So, look at that. My milk clarified cocktail still looking exceptional. The curds still kind of, trying to say, still kind of looking like poo. In real life, looking here, it's a teeny bit purple, but also speaking as a parent who's had to clean a lot of nappies, kind of like poo. Curd is actually quite tasty. I'm probably just chucking it out. My God, I already had a drink. This probably would have filled up the bottle if I hadn't had a drink. Okay, I don't think I'm going to put that in the fridge because sometimes, and this is like a chemical reaction, when I put it in the fridge, it gets cloudy again, like some of the oils come out of solution. But if I keep it at room temperature, it stays clear, and I just serve it on ice. No, Safra, I think I'm fine with the thing. So, nobody, my friend, what have you been up to today? What's time? It's not even 9:30. I'm not drinking. This is me. I'm talking myself into this. Not drinking more. Okay, I've broken off all the bits of ice on my freezer martini. Now I'm going to put it back in the freezer. Another stream later in the week might have another martini, and then I'll top it up with who knows what. It's a lottery. It's exciting. But I'm going to put this back in the freezer. All right. We're good. I'm good. I'm pretty good. It's my two favorite COVID songs are "I'm Good" by the Hilltop Hoods, and they're both from 2020. Haven't heard a better COVID song since then. The Hilltop Hoods one where they say, I'm good, I'm pretty good. Matter of fact, man, I'm kind of awful. It's just talking about how weird the world was being. And the other one was a duet with Briggs and Tim Minchin called Housefire. So nobody, tell me, is that virtual smooching with Nettie, or have you actually traveled again? Inquiring minds wants to know. Because, if you've actually done the traveling thing, I don't know, maybe we could meet later in the week. Again, I know Nettie's doing the moving thing, so, And I just have trouble keeping up with stuff, basically. I don't think there's any more liquid in this. That's a good. So okay, so if that's 400 mils, that's 5 cocktails in there. 4 or 5. 4 if I'm over pouring. But yes, Mrs. Angry likes my milk clarified cocktails. I think she'd like that one. That one's quite good. You teleported. I still don't know what that means. I don't know if that means you're doing the virtual stuff or if you've actually traveled. We should do a Friday stream at your place. If nobody's here, you're talking about this Friday? Because that's the thing we could potentially organize. And the last one at your place, after we finished the stream, and Nettie wanted to get ciggies or something, so we traveled to the fucking 7-Eleven at an ungodly hour and had a big adventure, which was very funny. I could absolutely be convinced to do that. COVID party. Yeah, there is that. Spoons. Okay, this is the thing. We can talk about this on Discord or whatever. What the plan is for the week, if that's a thing we could organize. Sounds like fun. Sounds like fun. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Friday night is a night where anything could happen. And I tell you what, for free, Dr. Abigail, I wouldn't be averse to maybe trying to pay a visit to the whiskey bar that's in your neighborhood, even if it's just for one drink. Because we've been, God, for ages we've been talking about going there and have never actually done it. Yeah, that's what I assumed was happening. Nobody with a big move. So I think we could discuss this on Discord, what the plan is, what you're going to be doing with relation to the move, and oh, geez, what the fuck is that? Sorry, just excuse me for a minute. Yeah, see, Dr. Abigail, Elysium. That's the thing. But we can work this out during the week if this is a thing we can do. Okay, that was fucking pointless. That doesn't work. But I thought of something that might work. I feel like there was some Okay, I'm fucking around in a drawer full of sharp knives, which is not the smartest thing I've ever done. Oh, nice. You had a nice, smooth flight? Well, that's good. That's what we like to hear. What is this? That's sugar. This is something I haven't really used since getting it. Young Mr. Angry saw it in a supermarket in like the boutique foods, a rose syrup. He said, that seems like something that you could do something interesting. And I said, I agree. I'll get it. And I haven't done anything with it. It's a really thick syrup based on rose petal or rose water. One single drop. The mystical rose inspires the soul. An elegant addition to desserts, cocktails, and teas. So I need to come up with a way to use that in a drink. Safa, I had a meal replacement bar for dinner. I spent a while tossing a coin between, am I actually going to make some dinner or am I just going to have a meal replacement bar? And I ended up with, I'm making a meal replacement bar. I want to cook when I'm properly motivated, because Young Ms. Angry has made some dumplings. She makes incredible dumplings from scratch. And I like pan frying up some veggies. And again, this is relatively simple. It's usually just onion, capsicum, and mushroom. Pan fry that, get all tasty, and then pan fry the dumplings with the veggies, and then just have this plate of veggies and dumplings. Maybe put a sauce on it, like a tonkatsu sauce on it, and it's fucking yummy. Get a pasta with a pre-cooked pasta. I often make pasta with those, jars of sauce. A lot of people frown on it. That's not good. But, yeah, I often make pasta with those jars of sauce, and it's yummy. Mind you, the offspring, when they make a bolognese from scratch, they go to town. They will like puree some onions and celery and carrot and tomato and cook it up in a pot with minced meat, and they will like their bolognese from scratch is exceptional. Do people in the Philippines have dumplings? Probably. Like yum cha is very popular in the Philippines. So they're actually borrowing from East Asian. I'm not aware of some like Philippine specific dumplings. I think more broadly, a lot of people in the Philippines will, just do like East Asian dumplings, whether it's Chinese, Japanese, or Korean style. I'm not 100% on this, but I don't know of Philippines specific dumplings. So nobody, some people to ask. I also know some people to ask. Good on you, cooking the pasta, Sava. Yeah. So, tomorrow I might check that Young Miss Angry. So, can I eat like half a dozen or so of your dumplings that you laboriously made by hand? And if she's okay with that, I think I will cook up the veggies, and it's super yummy, just the pan-fried veggies and dumplings with a savory sauce, like soy sauce, tonkatsu sauce, that type of thing. Very yummy. Almost had it for dinner tonight, but just got to the point where I just couldn't be fucking bothered. So what's tomorrow? Wednesday. I might have it for either lunch or dinner tomorrow. Who knows? So I think I should. Young Miss Angry basically doesn't drink alcohol. Young Mr. Angry does. But no, I think she's usually okay with me eating some of her dumplings. She makes a really big batch of them. I'm just like, can I have some? You made like a lot. Can I have some? Nobody, you like simple foods, decent steak? See, I've never really been into steak because you have to. This is something about me. Eating steak feels like it's too much work. You have to chew too much. So I tend to make stuff out of minced or ground meat because it's easier to eat. It's like steak. You got to chew it too much. It runs out of taste halfway through chewing it. I'm going to chew it for a while till all its flavor goes out. I'm just going to spit it out because it's got no more flavor. And bum fungus, you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. Very well-cooked steak. You don't have to chew too much. So yes, I'm being somewhat light-hearted when I say that, but yes, I don't like if it's chewy. Oh yes, it's what I'm perfectly capable of chewing through dead animal flesh. It's just that it sometimes feels like too much trouble, and I don't want to do it. But that's probably why I eat so much chicken, because it's easier to eat. But yes, I'm definitely a carnivore, and I like ground meat and chicken. But you know, it is what it is. When I went out on Sunday night with Mrs. Angry, this place did a 3-course meal. The entrees was nice, as veggies, and what do you call these things? I forgot what they're called. Let's forget it. But the main course was chicken, and it was a really nice tiramisu for dessert, where the coffee flavor wasn't too heavy. And I was just eating it thinking, man, this would be a really good base for a cocktail. Like maybe shake this with some gin, put this tiramisu and gin and ice in a shaker, shake it and strain it, and it would have been a fucking awesome cocktail. Your theory is we developed good aim so we wouldn't get eaten by lions. Fair call. That's also our whole pattern recognition thing we have as Homo sapiens, filling in blanks and thinking like, no, that bit of moving grass, that's actually a lion. Fucking run. Which has mutated in ways that we have somewhat of a tendency to see patterns where no pattern exists. It's like when you see faces in things, what's that called? Pareidolia. Seeing patterns where patterns don't exist. And that's conspiracy thinking. That's the thing. Humans evolved for self-preservation, pattern recognition, and being able to fill in the blanks and going, oh, that and that and that means there's a predator in the long grass, has also resulted in humans filling in the blanks of patterns and seeing things that aren't really there. So it's complex being a human, is what I'm saying. It's complex. It's not completely straightforward. Ugh. Getting a little bit more water, but just a little bit. Can't outrun a lion, throw rocks at them. Yeah, and the other thing is seeing them before they attack. Your face isn't really there. Okay, you're going to say something to disturb me, Dr. Abigail, I know it. It's the old joke about a couple of campers out in the wilderness in America, and a bear starts going for them. They go, we've got to run. One goes, oh my God, thank God I've got my running shoes on. And his mate says, you can't outrun a bear. And he says, I don't have to outrun a bear. I just have to outrun you. It's like, ooh, harsh. So, Dr. Abigail, being human is really complex, isn't really straightforward. Yeah, no, it's like, if we're honest, our strengths and weaknesses are basically the same thing. Which is weird, but various things that help us survive also undermine our ability to understand reality. It's very weird. Smiglish saying, we're looking at a representation of my face, and my face isn't actually there. Well, the thing is, like, our entire perception is just chemical reactions in our brain. And we do essentially know the brain can be manipulated either deliberately or accidentally so that those chemical reactions are altered and we have a different perception of what's happening around us. So it's that old philosophy question of a brain in a jar. How do I know I'm not a brain in a jar? Just being fed in sensory input that makes me believe I'm out in the world and doing stuff. Every refutation I've seen of that has been quite trite. Dumb things like, oh, God wouldn't let that happen. No, it's just like we're constantly interpreting what's around us, and there's a million little things that can change our interpretation of what's around us. And anyone who wants to talk about, like absolute truths and absolute reality, I just say, like, look, seriously, you must have at some point been at an event, a concert, a show, a play, a movie, whatever, that you thought was fantastic, and somebody who experienced the same thing at the same time came away with a perception that is the complete reverse of yours. You think you experienced the objective reality of an event, but other people who were there experienced it in a way that is completely different to the way you experienced. They took away stuff that's totally different. And not just feelings and emotions. Sometimes people who are very close to you, they see things that are totally different to what you saw. So how they relate back what they saw can be in complete conflict with what you saw. So all these people who want to insist on some comfortable, objective reality is like, some things are observable and testable and whatnot, but it's all constant interpretation. You just can't let it go, Dr. Abigail. Objective reality. Disco Season 2 is an unwatchable mess. But case in point, I enjoy Disco Season 2. And you are free to say I am wrong, but my perception and my experience of it and Mrs. Angris is completely different to your perception and experience of it, which is why I argue the concept of an objective reality is incredibly fraught, because we are constantly interpreting sensory input, and it's influenced by a myriad of things, and we all have different influences that color how we experience events. So no two people experience an event in the same way. And yes, Dr. Abigail, I am Mr. Philosophy Man. La-di-da. But it's like those old thought experiments. If I close a door on a room, does that room still exist on the other side of the door? What evidence do you have to say the room still exists on the other side of the door? And you get pragmatic people who just go, oh, of course it exists. That's dumb. Why are we wasting time with that? Yeah, but when you put it to someone, what evidence do you have that the room continues to exist on the other side of the door when you close the door? The basic answer is none. You have no direct evidence that the room continues to exist. You say, well, then I reopen the door and the room is the same as I experienced it when I closed the door. I go, yes. So while you have the door open and are able to observe it, the room exists as you understand it to exist. You have visual, auditory, and sensory evidence that the room exists. But once you close the door and you can't experience that room, you have zero objective evidence that the room continues to exist while the door is closed. Nobody, see you later. Yeah, Dr. Abigail, what that evidence says, when you had the door open, the room was there, and from your perception, it exists. You close the door, you have no direct evidence. You open the door, and the evidence you had before is reinforced. It continues to exist in the same way. So it is each time you experience the room, there is a consistency of that experience. But the simple fact is, when you close the door, you have no objective evidence that exists, but you can hypothesize. You can say, based on the evidence I have seen, the room consistently continues to exist each time I observe it. So I can confidently say, when I reopen the door, the room will exist as I understand it to exist when the door is opened once more. You can test that theorem, and you can have some faith that I get a consistent result every time I open the door. So I can be confident when I open the door, the room will be there existing, and I can go in and experience that room again. And yes, you can use physics and experimentation to go, I can measure and expect consistent results. And this is where physics comes in. Physics measures how things happen in the world, and you go, I can repeatedly measure the effect of certain things with physics, and I can get consistent results. So I can be confident each time I do a particular thing, I will get the same result. But, and this is the weird bit, the experience of different individuals can be very different. You can use physics, and this is the thing I agree with, using physics to establish a consistent set like of cause and effect. But it gets more complicated because humans have a subjective experience of that cause and effect. So humans can interpret that different ways. And that's why we don't trust people. We trust evidence, we trust experimentation, we trust repeatedly successful experiments. Anything? Oh, well, no. There's a difference between evidence and objective reality. And I tend to agree with the school of philosophy that posits the concept of an objective, consistent reality is problematic because of the way humans experience reality. You can provide evidence, you can provide consistent evidence, and you can be confident each time I open that door, the room will still be there because I have a body of evidence that supports that. But when the door is closed, you can't objectively prove the room continues to exist on the other side of the door because you don't have proof of that. You can have experimental evidence that shows you I have confidence the room is still there because every time I've opened the door, the room has still been there. So I'm confident the next time I open the door, the room will still be there. That's evidence-based assessment. You can test the hypothesis. That's what you can test the hypothesis. See, but that's the big question. You're saying it's a waste of time to examine whether the room still exists when you can't prove it exists. That's where philosophy and science differ. Set the room on fire, close the door, whatever expected. But again, that is evidence-based hypotheses, which I support 100%. I support 100% the hypothesis when I open the door, the room will still be there because I've consistently tested that hypothesis, and that hypothesis has never been proven wrong. But you get into the philosophy of, can you objectively prove that when the door is shut? And you can't. You just can't. When the door's shut, you can't prove it. I 100% believe in the hypothesis-based view of the world. Go, well, you know what? I tested it 1,000,000 times and the room was always there. So I'm really confident the next time I open the door, the room is there because there was a hypothesis. I tested it. The hypothesis has never been proven wrong. But when the door is closed, there is no objective proof that the room continues to exist on the other side. I'm worried about you burning down rooms, Megaleech. And again, see, Dr. Abigail, you're talking about an hypothesis, and a hypothesis that is supported by evidence, which I 100% agree with. I believe the room's there on the other side of the door because you can test it a million times, and I believe the room will always be there when you open the door. But there's a difference between the evidence that helps us understand the universe and objective truth, because we all experience the universe in a subjective way. Dr. Abigail, but that's the philosophy. Again, and there's also a question of whether the philosophy is particularly useful as well. But I think it just helps with questioning other stuff that may be a bit more ephemeral. I personally believe the room is there on the other side of the door. I believe you can set up the hypothesis and test, and the test will consistently deliver on the hypothesis. The room continues to exist on the other side. But by the same token, when the door is closed, you have no objective evidence that the room continues to exist. You can argue, I do not believe this point of view, but you can argue the room ceases to exist when the door is shut, and it immediately reconstructs itself when you open the door. So in a nanosecond before you open the door, the room reconstructs itself and comes back into existence. Like virtual reality, when you're playing a computer game, virtual reality, everything's coded to exist, but stuff only exists as far as you can see it in the game. But as you progress through the game, it will create the stuff that is coded to exist. But okay, put it that way. In a computer game, whether it's... Oh, I think Mimsy was just pissing on something in the next room. But yeah, take it from our physical world to a computer game, like either an open world game or a virtual reality thing or whatever. Everything's coded to exist. But when you're sitting looking at a particular vista in a game, and the game is programmed to create the stuff as you move through it, is the stuff that's beyond your vista, does that exist before you trigger the code to create it? Does that exist or not? And that's what I'm talking about. So does stuff that exists when you witness it exist when you don't witness it? It's supporting women against dairy. It's where I think this philosophy is useful is when you're examining more ephemeral things. Like, I don't think there's a huge amount of value in arguing whether or not the room exists on the other side of the door. But I think as a thought exercise, it's useful in helping you, because there is a bunch of other stuff that various people believe that is somewhat more tenuous, has some evidence to support it, but that evidence isn't conclusive. So if we are willing to embrace the fact there is some stuff that we don't have absolutely conclusive evidence for, but we believe, it can help us maintain a frame of mind of, is there something I don't know? Like, I'm framing my worldview based on stuff I know, but is there stuff I don't know? No evidence the world exists, creating and destroying itself. You also don't have conclusive evidence that it doesn't. You can't prove a negative. That's the philosophy side of things. You can't prove a negative. And like I said, I don't think there's a significance. I don't think there's a significant value in getting into a really intense argument about whether or not the room exists on the other side of the door. I believe it does, and all the evidence supports it does. You're too aspy for this type of philosophy. But this type of philosophy is what advances science. This pushes people to get better hypotheses and better evidence to support their hypotheses, because it is a danger in the sciences that someone does an experiment once, sees a result, and particularly when that result reinforces the view they had before they did the experiment, they go, that's the truth. And we've seen consistently over the years, stuff that was held to be true has been comprehensively disproven. So the philosophy side of things, to me, is to keep our minds open, examining what do we know, what are we interpreting, what could possibly be at play that we haven't yet considered. A good ephemeral example we want to play. I'd go back to computer games. Like an open world computer game or a VR game is programmed to create the world as you progress through it. But there's the argument, does that world exist before you progress through it? Again, but Dr. Abigail, good science changes over the years. Again, to my mind, good science is constantly questioning. Good science is constantly saying, can I repeat that experiment? Can someone who has no vested interest in the outcome of that experiment can repeat that experiment and get the same result? And this is where physics helps us. Physics helps us understand the world. Even though we experience the world in a subjective way, physics can go off evidence and go, things will act in that particular way because I have measured things acting in that way consistently over an extended period, and I have never measured things acting in a way that contradicts itself. So I can confidently predict a motor will work like this. I can confidently predict electricity will work like this. I can confidently predict a computer will work like this. But what was that one? Room objectively exists. That's open to interpretation. There's evidence to support the existence of the room. But if you are not witnessing, if you are not witnessing any of that evidence, how do you know the room objectively exists? When you examine the room, you can see the existence of the room. You can use physics and other observational techniques to go, the room exists. But when you cannot observe the room, what objective evidence do you have that the room continues to exist? That's then a subjective belief. You subjectively believe everything that I observed objectively continues to exist in the same way when I can no longer objectively observe it. That's a subjective belief. You believe things continue to objectively exist when you cannot examine their objective existence. That's a subjective belief. Also, you go crazy if you don't kind of latch onto some things as an objective reality. In my opinion, you go a bit crazy if you don't accept some things as an objective reality. And I actually agree with you 100%, Dr. Abigail, about the objective existence of that room and whatnot. It's just as a philosophical experiment, you cannot actually prove that. If you can't observe something, you cannot objectively prove it exists. You can set up an experiment and say, based on what I have observed, I can confidently say the following will happen. And then you can play out that experiment and go, yay, it happened. My worldview is solid. I feel good. Dr. Abigail, you cannot objectively prove the room has not ceased to exist when you can't observe it. That Do you get that? You cannot objectively prove that the room has ceased to exist when you can't observe it. And I agree, this shit will send you insane. And that's why I think to keep a grip on the world, we all kind of go, there are certain things I accept as an objective reality. And these things will continue to exist. The room will continue to exist on the other side of the door. I don't need to prove it. I've just seen that it continues to exist. Every time I go there, it's there. So I'm not going to freak out about the non-existence of the room when the door's shut, because every time I open the door, the room's there. And so, you know what? I don't need to objectively approve it. I experience it. I said objectively approve, didn't I? Objectively prove. I don't need to objectively prove it. I will just subjectively experience the existence of that room every time I open the door. I actually haven't read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Archetypal hippie book from the 60s or possibly 70s. But yes, Heine, quantum physics acts of opening the door, measuring something changes the existence of it. Yeah, okay. And that's my talking about driving you insane. The Schrodinger's cat thing. People don't realize that was Schrodinger saying he had the shits with quantum physics, because he goes, I fucking no. Now, with what we've done in quantum physics, we're saying the cat in the box is both alive and dead, and that's fucking dumb, and I hate it. But the nature of quantum physics opens up these questions. But yeah, I continue because overwhelming evidence tells me the room continues to exist. It's not 100% foolproof, objective proof, but constant experience and experimentation has told me the room's there. If I open the door, the room is there. So I don't need to fucking do my head in obsessing about abstract philosophical concepts. But it's a useful construct to help you think, I need to keep thinking, because there may always be something I do not yet understand. There may be something I do not know about. The old unknown unknowns. You can look at the observable universe and see what causes what. You can experiment and test hypotheses and be confident and whatnot. But for me, where the philosophy is useful is it's telling you, leave room to question the things you have observed. Don't be a dumb fucking hippie and think there's crystal energy holding the world together and shit. Again, it's to me, it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act between having an open mind and considering the philosophical aspects of existence and reality, and not having a mind that's so open your brain falls out your fucking ears and you end up being Pete fucking Evans or one of these Byron Bay fuckwits who denies reality. There's a difference between having an open mind, understanding the difference between subjective and objective reality at the philosophical level, and being a fuckwit who just believes stupid shit. There's a difference. There's a difference. Whoops. I just suddenly thought of Spinal Tap, the heavy metal mockumentary where one of the blokes in Spinal Tap, where someone says something philosophical to him, goes, "Oh, it's a fine line between stupid and clever, isn't it?" Dr. Abigail, way too pragmatic and engineering type. See, that's the thing. As an engineer, be an engineer. Just do that hard physical stuff, because we need that. We are dependent on that. I also think the philosophy side is needed, but you don't have to do the philosophy side. You can fuck the philosophy side way off. But I believe we only get to the hard science by taking into account the philosophical questions. At various points in history, the airy fairy philosophical stuff has had way too much sway. That's normally in societies where religion was a big thing. The airy fairy philosophical stuff has had way too much sway, and really fucking stupid shit has been believed. But I think science, with the complete abandonment of philosophical questions, I think it makes mistakes, and I think in a worst case scenario, leads to fascism. That's bad science. That is bad science. But anyway, I've rambled on this and hurt Dr. Abigail's brain quite a bit. I think you should just stick with the physics side of it, the engineering side, because that's incredibly important. And that's also too difficult for me. I'm more disposed to the philosophical side. Run a little bit long with that philosophical discussion, but I enjoyed it. So I'm going to sign off and retire for the evening. I won't be on tomorrow night. I'll either be watching stuff with Mrs. Angry or maybe going into the city to take advantage of Melbourne money with Mrs. Angry. Probably be back on Thursday. Who knows? We might be planning a special Friday night stream this week. Anything could happen. Woo! Who knows? It's all up in the air. Still to be discussed. But you all take care in the meantime. And I'll see you